beautiful souls. Okay, so I'm just going to wait a couple minutes. Maybe we should say some affirmations in the middle, huh? Or in the beginning. I am healthy. That's a great affirmation. That's one of my favorite ones, actually. I am healthy. And sometimes, sometimes we have health issues because we don't believe that we're healthy. Or maybe we don't say the affirmations, I am healthy. Maybe truly we don't believe that we're healthy. So that's one of my favorite affirmations. So today's live yeah, so Charles, can you hear me okay? Because yesterday's video was really bad in the playback, and I think it was that way while it was recording, but for me, it didn't show that way. So I hope that it's coming through okay now. So I'm not sure though. Okay, so hello Candy, hello Charles, of course, and Ashley. Okay, so today's live is going to be about karmic debt. Uh-oh, it looks like, okay. So today's live is going to be about karmic debt. So what is karma to begin with? You know, my main audience are Americans or European people. And so what ends up happening is that we're not taught that stuff. You know, we're not taught about karma. That kind of is like something from another country, but karma affects us all. Karma is not per culture. It's something that, okay, so karma, everybody thinks, this is what everybody thinks karma is. And I'll tell you what it's not, because it's not this. It is whatever goes around, comes around. That's what people will say. Okay, well, whatever goes around, comes around. It's a little more complicated than that, okay? So karma means memory. Karma equates to memory. So when we have an event in our life and we can't get it out of our head and it loops and loops and loops, what happens, do you think, when you die with that looping still happening? Your next life will have that exact loop. Your mind will actually find a way to create that in your next life so that you can live that out, because we're meant to overcome our emotions, okay? We're meant to let them process through and allow them to release. You see, our emotions, you can equate our emotions with water and with electricity, because they both have this current and this flow, right? So when you're thinking about your emotions, you can think about water and electricity both take the path of least resistance, right? So if our energy is stuck on an event that took place however long ago, and this is why trauma is so important for us to understand how we can be traumatized and how to deal with it once it happens. Excuse me. So trauma is anything that happens to us that we are not willing to look at and we're not willing to face. Trauma gets stuck in us until we can turn and face it. And ultimately, that's how people develop masks and shadow selves. We begin to actually split ourselves, because being whole and enveloping that trauma and releasing those emotions, we're not able to do that. So it gets stuck in our tiny being. Our bodies are not meant to hold the amount of emotions that come through us. We have to be able to cycle it through. Pretty much any illness, and I'm not a doctor, so I have to say that because people get picky, right? So I'm not a doctor. I'm just letting you know that we're going to relate emotions to the human body and to illness. So for instance, I was traumatized when my son was hit by a car at 3 years old at that point, right? Because that was an event that was too much for me to allow to come through me. And so I held on to it and I didn't want to look at it. And I literally ran from it for a very long time. It was almost like I was running from that car for years. I've shared before that, it was like I was a war veteran. I really was. It was PTSD, except, PTSD is post traumatic stress disorder, which means the stress is over, but we're still holding on to it. How can you ever feel like it's over when your son constantly puts himself in danger? You can't. You're hyper vigilant. It's really insane. And any person or parent with a child with autism would understand completely what I'm saying. I have 3 neurotypical children and 1 with autism, and it's a very different parental experience. However, it has helped me understand the energy and the karmic debt, which I will get to autism and karmic debt relation before too long. Okay, so back to karma and trauma and emotions sticking in our body and how it relates to illness. Okay, so for instance, if you are traumatized and you end up holding on to anger, because that was one of the things I held on to was anger. I was angry at the situation, and I was scared more than anything. And honestly, in that situation, I wasn't all that angry because I know it was an innocent thing. Nobody put my son in the street. You see what I'm saying? Like it wasn't an intentional thing. So no one actually tried to hurt my son. So I was okay. I didn't have a lot of anger when it came to that situation. However, I did have anger when it came to a different situation later on with the death of my grandfather and the role that I had to play in that. Someone did intentionally hurt me and my grandfather, and so for that I did hold on to the anger. Okay, so anyways, fear is held in our body in a certain organ, and we can actually think about fear, and you can feel where in your body you kind of are holding it. And if you feel it there, that will be the organ that ends up with illness, right? It makes perfect sense. That's the path of least resistance. So that organ will actually store the energy and the information from the trauma and from the trauma, and then that becomes karma in your next life, unless you release it in this life. That's why we remain distracted, because if we remain distracted, we're not going in and releasing these emotions that get trapped in us that we don't even know how to release them or what to do, right? So oftentimes when a person is chronically ill and they begin to deal with their emotions, they become free. A chronic illness is seriously self-imprisonment. It is self-imprisonment. And I had fibromyalgia, I had IBS, I had a ton of different chronic illnesses. And I can honestly say that if you want to imprison a person in a prison that they can't escape from, you destroy their body, right? That's how you do it. You implant it, right? So which I'll get into something different later. But so basically, karmic debt is those emotions that came from a past life, and you brought it into this life. And now all of these scenarios are going to play out in how we all fit in our lives. And it's so exciting when I talk to a person and they start telling me about things that are trapped inside of them. And it just becomes so clear when we read their numerology and their astrology, really why it's trapped inside them and how to get it out and what parts of them need the attention. And so this is the thing. We can release all of that within this life. And we have each life, and this is the thing, we have to want to do that. We have to have a desire to do that, because it's all based on our free will. Our free will can make us sick, and our free will can heal us. Our free will can make us strong, or our free will can allow us to be taken advantage of. It really depends on what is within your energy. And if you have the energy of victim, someone will victimize you in order to reinforce your idea that you're a victim. Your subconscious will actually put you in a position so that you can experience victimhood. That's how it is. Just like when I identified myself as a warrior, I'm a truth warrior. Okay, what does that mean? That means that I'm willing to fight for the truth. Do you really need to fight for the truth? No, I don't think so. I think the truth stands on its own, right? You either can accept the truth or you can't. And if your internal workings are up to par and your energy is dealt with and it's cleared out and your energy is clear, nothing can get past you. Seriously, the truth automatically resonates with you. And it's amazing the amount of lie detector that takes place once we activate our pineal gland and we clear all the energy out of our bodies. We are electrical beings, right? And electricity needs minerals to be moved through us. So for instance, we have a lot of water. We're a lot of water, and water holds memory. It holds memory to such a high degree. So for instance, like each water molecule, I think holds like 100,000 bits of data. Each one, like it's literally amazing. Think about that when you go to drink water. Think about that, because honestly, you can tell your water, talk to your water, and put intention into your water, and it can actually cleanse your water as it's going through your body. It's super amazing, but it's true. It's proven. It's a fact. You know that it's the way the universe works. So back to karmic debt. Now, your karmic debt, you'll know if you have karmic debt by your birth date. Okay, so you can run your birth date and find out what your life path number is. I think there's 4 numbers that come back with karmic debt, right? So if you're one of those numbers, it'll tell you why you have karmic debt. And if you betray your own heart, you'll come back with karmic debt. You'll come back as a 13-4, which is where you have betrayed your own heart. And now your goal is to heal your heart by loving unconditionally. That's how it works. You know, it's nothing to be afraid of. Sometimes people hear karmic debt and they're like, oh my God, I'm doomed. No. If your life has been hard because you have karmic debt, it's a great opportunity. That means that you actually get to burn out all that karmic debt. You get an opportunity to make your next life better. I mean, come on. We know that we're being distracted from something, right? What are we being distracted from? It's more than politics. We're literally being distracted from our own spirituality within our soul. And that's because a lot of times we don't even know about it. Honestly, I grew up Christian. All I kept hearing was, it's of the devil. It's of the devil. What's of the devil? Me loving myself? Me connecting to my higher self? Me not believing that another human being is God? Any more than I'm God, or that you're God, or that all of us are God? We're all leaves of the same tree. That's it. It's an energy. And so when it comes to karmic debt, so I wanted to tell you, my grandfather had karmic debt, and so does my son with autism. Now, am I saying all children with autism have karmic debt? No. But I have done a little bit of research, and I would say a good portion does. Honestly, a good portion does. And we as parents don't even know that. But they're here to work out their life path too. And their injury is a part of that life path. So we just need to support them and let them live through their life path. Because you see, if you lived in your previous life and you had everything handed to you and you spoke eloquently and you were able to deceive people with your words, when you come back the next time, something might stop you from being able to speak. That way you go inward more, right? And you can balance things out. So there's a reason for every single thing in our life. And this is the crazy thing, is that when we don't know why it's in our life, it just continues to play out and continues to come to us. And we're going, why does this keep happening to me? Because there's a lesson to be learned. And once you learn that lesson, it never comes back. Honestly, it never comes back. You know, I see a lot of times the narcissist and empath cycle where they complement each other. Narcissists call empaths, empaths call narcissists. It's not a mistake. You know, empaths are imbalanced in energy just like narcissists are, and they balance each other out. That's just the way it is. It's, you know, a lot of people feel like being an empath is like very special. Certainly. Empaths are normally people who would rather injure themselves than injure someone else. It doesn't make any difference. They're still injuring, right? So they find a narcissist to injure them instead of them injuring themselves. That's how it works. It functions. You know, and everybody wants to be all upset at the narcissist. Well, I'm sorry, but if you weren't there as an empath, the narcissist wouldn't even be a narcissist, right? Because there'd be nobody to be a narcissist too. So we have to understand what kind of energies are calling us forward. And so, for instance, there's ancestral karma as well, which comes with our DNA. So in my family, there was a lot of sexual abuse, okay? Throughout the bloodline, as far back as I can know, as far back as I know, there was sexual abuse within the family. And the crazy thing is that none of the adults knew how to deal with any of it. Even though their generations had dealt with it, they just kind of looked the other way, you know? And then I married a man whose family also had deep sexual abuse in it. And they actually protected the sexual abuser. Yes. So for me, in both sides of the family, I stood up and said, this is not acceptable. This is not okay. And then I was excluded. And so was my whole family. But this is the thing. That's perfect. That's great. Because guess what? Those sickos, the sick people who are, and they're sick, literally sick. I'm not saying that I'm not downing them at all. There really is an illness there. And so it's like, you know, those people, they'll continue the cycle because they're still interacting with the people who hold that vibration. But for us, my children will not continue that cycle because they're not around that. They're not going to see it. They're not going to see it defended because, especially on my husband's side of the family, it was very obvious about the sexual abuse. And I actually, as soon as I came into the family abuser targeted me, of course, right? Because I at that time in my life, I had the victimhood of sexual abuse. So they know it. Why do they know it? Because they can feel it in the energy. They could feel my energy was weak in that regard, right? Because when you're molested as a child, you don't all automatically able to fight people off, you know, when they come at you and they're trying to touch on you. And as a child, you're a little bit helpless. So you kind of, I call it molest mode. You kind of go into like you're not there anymore. So you don't fight. You're just waiting for it to be over because your job is survival. Hey, sexual abuse, at least I survived it. If I fight it, I could die. I could. One man actually sexually abused me in a parking lot, and I finally got away from him. And then once I had him arrested, it comes to find out he had a gun under the seat. So it's like, you know, there is a protective factor there. But the thing is that he would have never targeted me if I didn't have that vibration. So once my husband and I confronted the sexual abuse on his side, he, I forgot where I was going with this, but once my husband and I addressed the sexual abuse on his side, all over across the board, the sexual abuse towards me stopped. There was no one else that was looking at me or trying to take advantage of me from that moment on. Because my husband, just like my parents should have, and they didn't, my husband told me I was important enough to say no to. I was important enough to be protected. So you see how our energies actually combined? Because we had similar pasts, but we came from different places, but we set a message. And he protected me, so I was able to let go of that resentment towards everybody, knowing I am worthy of protection. It's not it's it's so amazing. It's so amazing when someone stands up and says, I know these other people who you thought loved you or who were supposed to love you, and they didn't protect you. Sexual abuse is one thing. The reaction afterwards, that's another thing. The sexual abuse in and of itself, it's done, right? It's done. But when you tell, as a child, you're told to tell, you tell, and no action is taken, and you're put back in that same position. That's a message. That's a big message. And that's what took place with me. So it's like these things, we're put in these positions in order to overcome them, in order to find a new way of doing things. I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. I can get up here. I can look you in the face. I can look into the camera and I can tell you my story and I can even tell you where I was wrong in the story, right? There are times where I put myself in danger and I should have known better, but I didn't. And you have this vibration about you when you have been a victim of that type of thing, especially as a child, right? So needless to say, I've never been sexually assaulted again. And my husband and I have been married 15 years, and never again have I been sexually assaulted since my husband stood up for me against his family. So that's a beautiful thing, right? So let's go back to karmic debt. So like I told you, my son has karmic debt, and my grandfather had karmic debt. My grandfather was my favorite person in the whole world. My favorite person. And I can't get into the whole story here, but I was responsible for his death. I consider myself as having murdered him and killed him, and it was through hospice, so it's not like I could ever be arrested for it or anything, but I can honestly say that me sedating him the way they told me to is what killed him, and not the lung cancer. My goal was to actually cure him from the lung cancer, but my aunt, who again I have a tie with my aunt, and I'll get into that on a different day with the numerology. But my aunt really emotionally broke me down at that point and tricked me into killing my grandfather. And at the end of it, there was no way I could deny what I had done. And I couldn't make sense of it. I couldn't understand it because I'm a healer. I don't want to hurt anybody. My goal is to make people feel loved, to make people feel better. How could I have done that? And I had a hard time forgiving myself, forgiving my aunt, forgiving my grandmother, my father, my mother, my brother, my sister, everybody. Everybody turned on me, and I was alone, and so I had to overcome that. How do you overcome that? How do you go from being a murderer to seeing yourself as a good person? And this is the thing. I would tell people, I'm a murderer. I don't know. I'm a murderer. I know I am. I took my grandfather's life. I realized what was happening halfway through, and I could have stopped at that point and walked away, but I couldn't. Ultimately, because I wasn't going to leave and let my aunt just straight up murder him, right? Because I couldn't do that to my grandfather, so I stayed until he took his last breath, knowing that what I was doing for the next 2 days was killing him. That's it, and I never ran away from that. I never denied that. It really was a horrible situation to be in. But later on, when I started diving into numerology and diving into astrology and really trying to put meaning to what I had experienced. And I mean, come on, people have trauma, but dear God, that's some serious trauma, right? Like, that's some serious trauma to try and deal with. A lot of us parents with children with autism, we kick ourselves. We have a hard time forgiving ourselves for the vaccines that injured our children or killed our children. Some of our children did pass, and with my grandfather, I couldn't understand why that was happening, why that happened that way. But this is the thing. This is what got me into energy and caused me to go deep into energy to try and understand myself and the world around me. So, like I told you, I decided to stay for those 2 days. And when 24 hours before he took his last breath, I had fallen asleep at the foot of his bed. And I could hear his breathing because it was pretty raspy. And I had finally fallen asleep, and all of a sudden my head forces this way and my eyes are open, and there's a ball, just this energy, beautiful energy ball, just hanging out there, waiting for me to see it. And my eyes couldn't take it in enough. Like, I literally could not believe what I was seeing. And then the next thing you know, it's gone. But it was there long enough for me to know that it was there, and it wasn't something that I've never hallucinated anyways, but it's something I didn't imagine, right? And so I was just shocked. I didn't know what to think. I thought he had passed. So I listen, and he's still breathing, and I'm going, that is so strange. But he never moved on his own again. His soul was gone. And that's when I realized that our soul can leave our body before it's dead. I truly believe that. I tested all of his fingers and toes with the oxygen meter, and there was no way that there was enough breath to sustain consciousness. So his body was just playing it out, which led me to believe even more, right? That his body didn't kill it. I did that to his body, because his body was obviously wanting to continue on, right? So anyways, so that's when I really dove deep into the energy of figuring out why I was there. My grandfather was the light of my life. My grandfather, my family, I've never really felt like I fit ever, and they can all attest to this. But I've never felt like I fit, and they never felt like I fit either. And so, but my grandfather, I was his favorite, and he always felt like I fit. He looked forward to seeing me. If someone was talking bad about me, it didn't matter who it was, he didn't allow it. It was never allowed in his presence, and he never did it. And that is something that to this day is something I look for in another human being. You know, can you talk good about me when I'm not there? Do you talk good about me behind my back? You know, those are the people that love you. It's not the people who talk crap about you when you're not looking, and then they're happy to your face, right? And you can feel those people. So anyways, so I dove deep into numerology, into energy, and I was like, I had finally found my home. I had finally found the ocean that I could swim in, and it all made sense. So I did my grandfather's numerology, and what came back was absolutely stunning. So he had karmic debt, just like my son did, the same number and the same reason. Craziness, okay? Not only that, that was their life path, but their names, which are completely different, their names were also identical numerology. How is that? That's amazing. Because you see, here's the connection. Maybe in another life, my grandfather murdered me. So I had to do it to him in this life. And knowing the person that I am, I would have never done it if I knew what I was doing. So I had to be fooled in order to fulfill his karmic debt. That's how it works. That's what was happening. That I can accept. And then, this is the craziness. I started researching more into my aunt, right? And this is the crazy thing. The universe will just hand you stuff on a silver platter. So I didn't know my aunt's exact birthday. And so I thought to myself, I don't know how I'm going to get that. I don't talk to anybody in my family anymore. So I don't know how I'm going to get that information. And all of a sudden, within a couple days, so I tell this to the universe, right, to myself. I say, I don't know how I'm going to get her birthday. I don't know. And within a couple days, I find this Bible that is engraved with my grandfather's name on it, that my uncle had given me before he committed suicide. Okay. So it has my grandfather's name in it. And guess what else it has written in it? All the children's birth dates. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. And every time I tell the universe, I need this information, where am I going to find it? Boop. Somehow it's there. Literally, I'll find it in a magazine. I'll find it in a book. Somebody will post it on Facebook. Literally, it will come out of nowhere, and I'm going, synchronicity, right? That's the power we have when we start understanding that we are not alone. We're not alone. There are so many eyes on us, right? Including our own. And so anyway, so I researched her numerology thinking, oh, she's going to come back with karmic debt, right? No, she has the same life path as me. The same exact life path as me. Craziness. Which means that I have to see her as myself. How can I not? But I can see where she chose other ways, because you see, her motivation was not the same as mine. Her motivation was money. Money, money, money makes her world go round. Yes, it does. Money is her God. And, I recently found out that she's watching my videos. And so, who knows? Maybe I'll hear from her. However, it doesn't matter, right? Because the truth stands alone. Whatever. So anyways, her motivation was money. And so she murdered for money. It doesn't matter that I was the one that was giving him the medication, right? It was that her decision. She's the one that made the decision. And so that's how it goes. She's probably going to come back with karmic debt. And this is the crazy thing. So this is the crazy thing. I'm a master number 22. And she's a master number 22. So what that means is, like, people will hear, oh, master number, I want to be a master number. No, you don't. You really don't. Like, being a master number it has its own complications. It really does. And as a master number, you can always be the lower number. So for me, I can be a 4 or I can be a 22, right? If I choose to be at the base level of emotional stability, then I'm a 4. But if I rise above that and I choose the higher road and I connect with my higher self and I make my decisions based on my higher self, I'm a 22. And that's where my master number comes from, right? So there's always free will. It's always free will. The universe wants you to choose what it is that you want to experience in this life. There are certain goals you have before you come in that other people will conspire with you in order to accomplish. So when you're a master number, you don't live an ordinary life. You really don't. You are put in situations where you are meant to grow so that you can teach others. That's it. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I have to do. That's why I'm here doing this video. It's not for my own health. It's because that's my life path. That's what I'm meant to do. That's my purpose. How can I deny that? I can't. I just can't. So back to karmic debt. That, the fact that I'm a master number in between the two people that will love me, because my son loves me unconditionally. I am my son's voice. I am my son's, his everything. When he'll, we're so connected. It's amazing. There really is something very special, just like with my grandfather. I could just be in his presence, and it was like heaven. I'm telling you, and it's just amazing. And the fact that their names and their life path are the same is not a coincidence, my friends. There are no coincidences, and that right there blew my mind. That blew my mind. And so it's like, you need to do what you're supposed to do, and you'll love it, and your life will improve, honestly. And so back to karmic debt, though. So, I feel as though my grandfather fulfilled his karmic debt. And I hope that when he comes back in his next life, that it's a life that he deserves love in, because unfortunately he had a really hard life. He really did. And then it ended really rough as well. And that's the worst part. That's the part that sticks with me. And it doesn't stick with me. It's an event that I gained wisdom from, because you see, everything that happens with us, it can be traumatic, but once we understand what's happening, it becomes wisdom. And wisdom, people don't understand, there's a difference between intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence or knowledge and wisdom. Intelligence and knowledge are brain, 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 right? And the brain is actually 100 times less powerful than the heart. So wisdom is actually seeing the situation with your brain and your heart and then applying it to other situations. It's being able to generalize it. That's wisdom, right? Wisdom is me being able to go, okay, I can use the experience with my grandfather, and I can talk to you, and I can see where your dots are connecting, right? Because I'm an outside person. I have enough experience to be able to connect dots. That's always been my gift anyways, is connecting dots. So that's why it's so perfect. This is just, it's just flowing like a river, honestly, like the energy, like electricity. So we've got to activate our pineal glands. We've got to protect our pineal glands. We've got to nourish our pineal glands, and we have to act willfully. Free will matters. Every movie, every situation, it's always free will. It's always consent. Silence is consent. So if you have this, so there's this situation, there's this concept that my husband and I were talking about today. And when you grow up from abuse, there are things called trauma responses. There are things where you have dealt with so much trauma as a child that you literally have a programmed way that you respond. People pleasing is one of them, right? I mean, you can see that as a child. A lot of times, abused children are people pleasers. They're the most loving children, and you think to yourself, it's kind of like the dog. I don't want to compare children to animals or anything, but it's like a dog you get from the pound who's been abused, right? That dog, a lot of times, is the most loving animal because it's the most people pleasing because it has been traumatized. And so, there's another thing, and I've never heard it coined before. I'm going to have to look it up, but the best phrase I can use for it is compulsive compliance. You know I was compulsively compliant. That's how my son was injured. That's how my grandfather was injured. That's how I was molested. That's how I was sexually assaulted, is this compulsive compliance. If you feel like you're in any type of danger, you just give in. It doesn't matter if the danger is real or not. You just give in automatically. Okay, I'll comply because I know it's only going to be for a second and then I'll be on to myself. But what have you really given up with that compliance? Your whole soul. Literally, your whole soul. Unless you consented to that consciously, you've been a victim again. You know? That's why it's like this compulsive compliance. And I think a lot of people are walking around compulsively compliant. You know, a police officer comes up to you, a lot of times we just automatically just do whatever they say. What? Heck no. I'm not a child. You're not my parent. I'm an adult. You're an adult. Let's talk to each other like adults. You know? We have the power to take that back that's been taken from us. We have the power to call all that energy back to us. And I did. And I tell you what, I would never go back. And what I have learned and what I have developed in this life, imagine what my next life will be like. That's what I look forward to. Yeah, I have ailments in my body still. I have things that need to be cleaned up, and they don't keep me down though. Like, I'm not an ill person. I'm not sick. I am healthy. I am healthy. And that's all there is to it because I claim it, right? I mean, that's how it works. Because anything in your vibration must be expressed. Remember that. Anything in your vibration must be expressed. So if you have victimhood in there, it has to be expressed. You need an abuser. Period. If you have empath in there, your energy is unbalanced, you're going to call in a narcissist every time. That's why women, a lot of times it's women, sometimes it's men, but women talk about it more, right? Because we're more vocal. And plus, it's easier for us to play the victim. But they'll be like, oh, I'm victimized by the narcissist and this and that. What are you talking about? You consented. That's not victimhood. That's consent. You consented. Otherwise, you leave. You know. And I can speak from experience. Honestly, I'm not getting up here judging at all whatsoever. My childhood was filled with narcissistic behavior from adults, and I watched as the consent was given. I really did. And so it's like, it's difficult to go from being abused to saying no. Heck no. This is my boundary. Boundaries are hard to set. We were never taught how to set boundaries, and that's a problem. We need to be able to know how to set boundaries. And what's beautiful when you set boundaries, oh, it's so beautiful, especially as an empath, right? Because I was an empath before I balanced my energy. Now I don't consider myself an empath. I consider myself a sensitive individual who can pick up energy and understand it. Before, the energy just came in shooting at me and it got stuck in me and whatever else, but not anymore. Not anymore. I'm not an empath. So it's interesting because we there are answers to all of the unanswered questions. There's answers. I promise. There are answers. And if you understand energy, because we're energy beings, even though like people want to pretend like if you can't see it, feel it, taste it, touch it with your five senses, then it doesn't exist. Okay, right. Then how are thoughts possible? That exists, right? Are my thoughts like figments of my imagination? And even figments of your imagination exist because you created them in your mind. You're a creator. We're creators. What are you creating in a day? Are you creating fear? Because whatever you feel as an emotion gets sent out like water, like electricity, just travels. What are you creating? We're creators. So you're creating something all the time. Are you creating love? Are you creating stability? Are you creating consent? Are you aware that you can give consent? Are you aware that you can choose to not give consent? I mean, what are we capable of doing? And as adults, right, we still have a child mentality. I'm telling you, up until like a year ago, I still had a child mentality. I really did. And then eventually, when you get to the point where you're like, wait a second, who's my parent? Me. I got to reparent that child inside of me that was abused. It's time to reparent that child inside of us and fix that issue. So again, karma, past lives are really interesting too, because there's nobody in your life now that wasn't in a past life. That's how it works. That's just the way it works. Everybody's been here before. The earth is a master level game, people. That's why it's hard. That's why there's addictions. Because your free will is supposed to say, I don't want that. Right? Because your free will can say, I do want that. That's your option. That's why it's master level here. If it wasn't master level, you wouldn't have the other option. You wouldn't have a choice. You would only have the good things in life. But we're here to experience everything. We're here to experience life. And part of life is darkness, and part of life is light. And we're here to learn, and we're here to teach. And that's the beauty of it, because I love to teach, and I love to learn. And I have never felt like I was living life until now. And even with all the craziness that's happening in our government and other countries' governments and all that stuff, like even with all of that, I am not afraid. I am not afraid, and I urge you to not allow fear to enter you, because then you will be creating fear. Honestly, if you want to make a difference in this spiritual war, and let me tell you, it is a spiritual war, no mistake about it. We can raise the energy so high that we never have to step out of our homes physically. We can raise the energy so high in the collective unconscious that just automatically things will start to go away. And there will be blocks for those evil people who are doing these things to us, right? because they have an agenda. They have a life path they're meant to come through. And just like my aunt, where she chose to kill my grandfather in order to get $500,000, basically, she siphoned off everybody's inheritance. You know, do you honestly think she's going to get away with that, even if nothing ever happens, like through the legal system? Because the legal system isn't legal system; it's policy making, right? Because we're a corporation, we're not a country. So it's policies. There are no laws. Those aren't laws. Laws can never be broken. So if something can be broken, it's not a law. It's a policy. They're policy makers. They're policy enforcers. They're police. Policy. You see? So it's just the only laws there are. So let me tell you, there are laws, but they're universal laws, and they can't be broken. And they're not different for you than they are for me. They work through energy. They work through thoughts, and there's no thought that goes unnoticed. Why? Have you ever wondered how God or source or whoever can keep track of all the people on the earth? Guess what? God's looking through your eyes. It's looking through my eyes, right? That's how, because we're all reporting back to the same source. That's why. So if all the eyes looking out are angry, the whole collective unconscious is going to be angry. Because if God is everything, then there's nothing that God cannot be. So is God evil? Does it exist? It's got to be God. Is God good? Good exists. It's got to be God, right? There's nothing else. There's nothing else. Just like all of the, and it's so beautiful because we actually can call in our energy and create beautiful places. And we can hold space for every time we raise our energy, we hold space for 1,000 people to join us and meet us where we are. That's how powerful we are. Don't ever feel powerless. Don't ever feel helpless. And don't ever feel alone, because you're not ever alone. Period. I promise you this. And maybe you can't feel it right now, but that's only because you're not connected. Once you're connected, it flows like a flood. Honestly, I remember being in my closet when my heart and my brain finally felt agreement. It was the most beautiful experience that I had ever had with myself. Ever. You know? We're alone with our own thoughts, or we try to avoid being alone with our own thoughts. But let me tell you this. Once I raised my energy, activated my pineal gland, and I did a meditation, it was a heart coherence meditation, all of a sudden, my body physically hugged myself. It was a hug that was the most healing thing I'd ever felt in my life. It was the most love that I had ever felt for myself. And that was the day I fell in love with myself. And it's not a hedonistic kind of love. It was almost like this energy had reached my heart and it just expanded to the point where I was everything and everybody. And I was. And I could feel all of it. And I had been closing that off because I was afraid to feel that. But it's the most beautiful feeling you can ever have. And honestly, I don't know that you're really a human that can feel other humans fully until you have that heart and brain coherence. You know, do you disagree with yourself sometimes? That's a heart and brain incoherence. And I was there. I'll tell you right now, I've lived my whole life being out of coherence with my heart and my brain. My brain always wanting to do something else and my heart feeling something different. And they're not in agreement. But guess what? Once they get in agreement, life happens. Synchronicities happen. Things make sense. Dots connect. It's absolutely amazing. So you don't want to take karma with you into your next life. You really don't. So you want to clear it out now. And, you know, you can contact me anytime. I'm letting you know right now. You want to work on something? My phone number is available. You can private message me. You can contact me in some other way. And in fact, you can even make an appointment with me, and I'll give you a full hour of my time where we'll sit down and we will talk about what you can do and understand. Because the point is really understanding, right? It doesn't really change anything because the situation's not going to change after I get done talking to you, but you will change, which changes the situation within you and how it affects you. That's the key. Not changing the situation. But then eventually, a lot of times, like once you start waking up and you start setting boundaries, this is what I wanted to tell you about boundaries. You start noticing the people that get upset at your boundaries, and people start leaving. But you don't feel rejected anymore because you're like, you know what? You wouldn't be upset at me if you loved me and you respected me. You would respect my boundary. You would know that this is where I'm not okay with you crossing, and you would be happy to know where that was so that you didn't cross the line. Period. And if they get upset at you, you'll know that person was using you. That's the only people that get upset at boundaries. Because I'm telling you what, when people set boundaries around me, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'll respect that boundary. I don't even care if it's a silly boundary, you know? Hey, I don't like it when you do this or whatever. That's cool. Thank you for letting me know. I don't have a problem with it. I don't even be like, no, you don't like that, well, you have to take it. No. You know? There's respect. It's the way it is. And what we give out is what we get back. And that's not karma. That's basic human nature. I mean, come on now. You can't go and hit someone in the face and not expect to get smacked back, you know? Unless that person has a trauma response, right? A trauma response person, a person who's had trauma in childhood, a lot of times won't hit you back. And that's even sadder. That's even worse, right? Stick up for yourself. You deserve the best. I promise you. You deserve the best. We all do. And there's no excuse for accepting less. So if you've accepted less, let me tell you, you've done a disservice to yourself. Don't feel guilty. Just change. That's what we do. We change. We change the habits. We change the programming. You know? If you grew up with great parents who supported you and loved you and saw you and talked to you and wanted to know how your world was and what your thoughts were, and you were able to just grow and expand and you just felt loved all the time, you're probably not going to be drawn to what I'm saying. But the majority of us weren't raised that way, right? I mean, our parents didn't know what to do. A lot of times our parents at my age were baby boomers. And I'm telling you, that is one of the most indoctrinated generations ever. They are, that's a generation I could do a whole video on, all in and of themselves. So, okay, so I am going to read I'm going to read the comments now. I wasn't expecting to actually go for almost an hour. But it's just a very deep subject, and I love it. It's something that is so wonderful to me because it really brought me to me. So, okay, so let me see. Okay, Charles, you're back. Good to see you again. Lovely. Okay. Yes, and yes, it was. Okay, so it is coming in clear, I'm supposing. Ashley, it's good now. Okay, good. Good. Hello, Jessica. Thank you for joining me. Thank you. Joe, thank you for joining me. Bob, thank you for joining me. Gordon, also, thank you for joining me. Candy, of course, gotta send you a kiss. Donna, thank you for joining me. Kay, I love you. I love seeing you. I love seeing you in my notifications. You've supported me for a long time, and I truly appreciate it. And I truly love seeing your name and your picture in my notifications. I just want to tell you that. And Richard, thank you so much. I know we've conversed many times online, and I've always enjoyed the conversations that you and I have had. And I always see that within what you're asking me or what you're telling me, there is serious seeking of truth. And I appreciate you. Eric, hello. Thank you for joining us. Tabby, I just love you. Like, you know that. Like, there's just a very special connection between you and I. Dana, thank you for joining us. Gina, also, thank you for joining us. Tori, you know I'm a fan of yours and your way of speaking the truth because you have so much truth inside of you, my love, and you are so raw, and I have to say I appreciate you. Okay, Orison, nice of you to join us. Thank you. Carolyn, nice of you to join us. Okay, David, so you have a comment here. Okay, sexual abuse is a feeling of being scared and alone, being plagued by nightmares, flashbacks, and other unpleasant. You need to go to counseling. This is trauma. Do you really think I need counseling, David? I think I've gotten counseling, and I think counseling was not very effective for me. You don't have to relive it all the time. You really don't. You can let it go, and that's what we have to do. You know, I tell you what, in this last year, I've become myself more than any counselor could have told me. In fact, my degree is in psychology because I did believe counseling was the way to heal. And living in this world and knowing what I know, you know, I would never stop somebody from going to counseling, but there are other ways of healing. So thanks for the advice, but I probably won't be taking it. Candy, again, Candy, true, true. Okay, Anne, thank you for joining us very much. Marco, thank you for joining us also. And hello, Marco. Let's see. And then Candy again. And Carol, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. Candy, thank you for your comments. Thank you for all your comments. I appreciate it, Candy. Don't stop commenting. Keep commenting. Thank you. Okay, Friday. You're just showing up here. Nice to meet you. And yeah, we're learning about karmic debt. And Candy, I love to teach you, and I love learning from you too. And you're a master number 33. So you need to be teaching too, and I know that you do. And I know that you do, and you and I will get you to where you need to be. I promise. Okay, Chance, thank you for joining us also. And Candy, very good. I'm not sure. You said that's not true, but I'm not sure what you're talking about. Oh my gosh, Michelle, are you on here? My goodness, I haven't talked to you in years, and I hope you're doing well. You were always a wonderful person in my life, and I have fond memories of you when I was 19 and 20, and I appreciate you. And Andy, well, you already know how I feel about you. Thank you for joining us, though, or me, or whatever it is, right? The group. Melanie, you are awesome. I love you too, Melanie. You are also a wonderful person who, oh, my love, you are so special for me. I think that you are so on the right path. You really are. And anytime you want to talk to me, honestly, I'm here for you. I am willing to share my life with you and be there for you as well. And I know that you also speak the truth, and you have a lot to share, and I so am appreciative of you. Okay, Candy. Oh, thank you. She said I was beautiful. It's only because you see the inner me. The outer me, I can't take credit for. I didn't do it. I promise. Okay. Okay, so, and Courtney and Jason, thank you so much for joining us. And I don't know when everybody joined or whatever the case may be, but I tell you what, I am so grateful that you're here. I don't know how much you heard, but I will be playing it back again. And my message is not about me. I only share my life story in order for you to be able to see the connections and kind of see that, you know, no matter what trauma you've been through, you can overcome it. I mean, did you kill someone? Probably not. You know, I'm telling you, you know, it's It's crazy. So anyway, so okay, and Mary, thank you so much for joining me as well. Everybody, I'm going to end this video now. It's been an hour, and I hope that I've given you some hope to get over any kind of emotion that's stuck so that you don't take it to your next life, honestly, or your next relationship, and you don't pass it on to your babies, right? And it stops. It stops. That compulsive compliance stops. That's it. So, like I said, I've offered to everybody here and anybody watching this video, even afterwards, you can contact me. Honestly, I am willing to help, and it improves me as well. So it's a mutual relationship, and I appreciate you. And I will, and so I'm going to end the video. But I want to tell you, I love you. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Flo. I chose that name. That's not my birth name. And I will be completely transparent with you. I chose that name because I love it. I love the word flow. I feel as though it embodies who I am and who I want to be. Flow is a state of skill, meeting challenge, and nothing else matters, right? Have you ever been in that state of flow where you are so engrossed and enveloped in what you're doing that everything else kind of goes away? But it's like this, it's a state of mind where you just develop and you bloom and you grow, and that's flow, and that's who I want to be, and that's who I am. So I appreciate you, and I will see you in tomorrow's video. And I'll try and post ahead of time what the topic is in case any of you that are on here currently would like to send me a PM and ask me any questions about that topic. And in fact, I'm going to ask you right now, if you wouldn't mind sharing this video, liking it, interacting with it, that kind of thing. And I mean, I appreciate it. I really do. But like I said, send me your questions. I'll answer them on a live. I'm doing this for 30 days. And in fact, I'm not counting yesterday because the video quality was so bad. So it'll actually be at least for 31 days. And so much love to you and to your family and to your life. And just breathe life. Breathe life, honestly. Okay, everybody. Have a good night. It's 8:30 here. I don't know everyone else's time zone, but it's time for me to get my son in bed and get ready for the rest of the night. Okay, you guys have a wonderful night and sleep well. And work out those issues if you have any. Okay, I love ya. Bye bye.